We're live.
All right, I'm recording.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American
Private
Breed
nature
Factory.
is sheer perversity.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered. We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto. Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Breed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
All three of us are here. Exciting show tonight. As always, quality entertainment.
It's called The Hidden Dangers of Podcasting.
Well, let's jump right in. We had a race this week.
Or
last week.
Oh, yeah, last week. Okay. I was like, what race are you talking about?
Demolition Derby. I mean, last week we got a race to talk about this
Did
week.
Big Hairy Mike win again? He had he had like an I-beam welded to the middle of his car and destroyed everybody.
Yeah, and it was technically legal because the sanctioning body said that, you know, he could do it, but only for to keep the suspension up, but he used it as a battering ram. So now there's no more giant I-beams welding the middle of the Combine Demolition Derby.
Oh yeah, we had the Russian Grand Prix, and yeah, hell of a race. Another crazy race for this year. We're starting to wrap up to be one of the. Well, I've only seen like 3 seasons of F1, but from what everybody says and what I can tell, this is wrapping up to be one of the best seasons F1 in a long time.
Another wet qualifying, right?
Yeah. So, they had wet qualifying, and what's interesting about that, and this will come into effect in the race, is it was raining during qualifying, and at some point in Q3, people started putting on soft tires, and I guess when it's like the track's kind of wet and you get heat into those soft tires, they can drive on the wet pavement and be okay and be like really fast, like be faster than the tires actually designed to drive on wet pavement, the intermediates. And so like that's what George Russell got another P3 start, which was crazy with his Williams. It's like the second time he's done that this year, also in wet qualifying. And then like and Lewis Hamilton crashed into the wall in the pit lane, and so he ended up fucking over Bottas because they had to like throw a new wing on his car and some stuff and put new tires on, and then everyone got backed up in some weird way. So yeah, a lot of people got fucked, but Norris put it on pole, Sainz was 2, and then Russell was P3, and then I think like Hamilton was like 4 or 5 or something like that, and Verstappen like basically just went out there because he took a new engine and it's a 4th one, so he gets a penalty that puts him at the back of the field automatically. So he just went out there and it's like, yep, the car works, and they put him back. And he retired. So he was starting in last. And then for some fucking reason they changed something again on Bottas's car, and so he had to take like a tid place grid penalty. I'm not sure if like they because you can get a penalty if you change a new gearbox, but also if you change the MGUH or the MGUK. All these other parts of the components of the car, they're separate from the power unit technically, so you can get individual penalties for changing more in a season of those things. And some people are saying like they did that intentionally because they wanted to to put Bottas at the back of the field so he could block Hamilton or block Verstappen.
Okay.
But during the race, he didn't really. So yeah, this is Norris's first pole position. He made a joke where it's like, the least. He said like, this is the race I least want to be on pole because I guess because there's a long straight at the beginning. The person in the third spot is actually at the most advantage because they're going to be drafting behind the first guy. And then when you get to the first corner, like that guy can kind of like swing around, slingshot around him, go late on the brakes and then go blast him in like the first corner. That's
okay.
That's usually what happens at the Russian Grand Prix. Although weirdly, what did happen is Sainz ended up doing that because he was blocking Russell from getting the draft on Norris. So then Sainz did the slingshot and pulled ahead. I don't think there's any other crazy things in qualifying other than that stuff, but yeah. So yeah, keep in mind, people were driving on wet pavement with slick tires, and they're like, "Yeah, this works."
Yeah, this is fun.
So yeah, I guess it's a race that Sainz pulls ahead. There's a fun thing if you look for Alonso. So there's like this little runoff area on the first turn where it's like, if you miss the turn, you have to like go off and like come back around and you have to go through these pylons. You have to like navigate them, and like that, the navigating them is supposed to slow you down. But if you, on the formation lap, Alonso like took a path through those pylons like intentionally. And so during the race, he basically just took a shortcut. No, I completely the word. Shortcut. He took a shortcut by doing that basically at full speed and just got back in line, and like everything was cool, and like he didn't get a penalty for anything because technically it's within the rules. Lance Stroll got a huge push like on the first lap. I think he ended up in fourth. Yeah. Which is, it's really good for him. And then Hamilton like really backed off because he was getting squeezed and he didn't want to he needed the points, so he didn't want to take a wreck, so he kind of backed off on everything.
Oh, okay.
Sainz leads for a good long time. I think about maybe like 15 or 20 laps. And then before everyone starts pitting, Norris gets by him. And then they pit Sainz early because I guess the tires were degrading pretty fast. And then also, I guess this track is really bad on fuel.
Oh,
For some reason, yeah, it's high consumption. I'm not sure why. I usually would just assume because it's a fast track, but that's not necessarily the only reason. And so, yeah, they had to save fuel. So they pitted him early and put on the tires. So that kind of, and later on they got on the radio. It's like, yeah, you're doing good. We're looking at a P5 finish. And he's like, what the fuck? I was in first place. Why the fuck are we in P5? Verstappen's making his way through the field fairly easily. And then what else is happening? I can't remember anything else that is happening. But eventually, Lewis Hamilton gets by everybody, and he's chasing Lando Norris down, who's been leading the race for about 40 laps or so. We get to about lap 48, and the rain starts to come in. And it's a 52-lap race, so there's 5 laps left in this race. They're getting on the radio, and they're like, "Hey, Lando, it's raining." He's like, "Shut up!"
Trying to drive a race car.
And then at some point, Hamilton pits for intermediate tires, which is what they use to drive on wet pavement. There's also the wet tires, which have more grooves in it, but they usually don't use those. I'm not sure why, but
Fuel consumption.
yeah, well, like if you're driving on wet pavement with the wet tires, they're fine. If it's dry at all, like it's like someone's taking a sander to their tire. Like they just completely degrade if they're not cycling out water and cooling themselves down. They just degrade incredibly fast. At least that's what I'm told. I don't know. So yeah, Lewis Hamilton, and actually Lewis Hamilton ignored the first call to come in to pit for intermediates. The thing is, like, so both Norris and Hamilton had pit time between, because Perez was behind him, but he was like 43 seconds behind. So either of them had the opportunity to pit and not get passed by Perez, but they would get passed by each other, whoever would go first. Norris is like, I'm going for the win, afterwards it seems like it's a bad call, but it's not. It's like, what you do in these races is you get out front and you be conservative. That's how you win an F1 race. And he was being conservative. He literally had 3 laps left to win the race, and it turned into an ice rink and he couldn't finish. Well, he finished it, but he had to come. Yeah, he had to come he went off the track. He said, I got to pit. And then when he comes into pit, he slides off the pit lane and then like comes back in, which is normally would be a penalty. But they didn't give him one. I guess presumably it was unsafe for him to come back in that manner, but being how the track was, him being out there was just unsafe in general.
Oh, okay.
So if he had missed the pit lane and then just like kept going, that probably could have been more unsafe. So they did not give a penalty for that. So
All right.
he ends up finishing in 8th place, and he is as the Brits say, gutted. All his interviews, it's just done with like dried tears.
Just monotone interviews.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a fun one because it's not really fun, but like it's Lewis Hamilton trying to be conciliatory towards Lando Norris. He's like, it's like, were they telling you to come in? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, they're telling me to come in too, but I didn't want to.
I almost made the same mistake, but I didn't. I'm standing up here.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton wins the race. Max Verstappen comes from 20th place and finishes in 2nd.
That's nice.
Yeah. Because, like, everyone's just sliding off the track, and he's like, I think we should pit for intermediates. Yeah, I've never seen this happen before, where, like, rain doesn't affect a race till, like, the last, like, 5 laps. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's the most intense part. It's like, oh, now conditions are degrading so rapidly.
Yeah, well, it was like everybody's either like most everybody was on the hard tire, which isn't as grippy, but also they're at the end of life of these tires, so they have even less grip. And the car's lighter because it's been burning through all its fuel the whole race, and it just becomes a recipe for an ice rink. So. And I guess like a lot of teams were confused because I guess this track is like way bigger than I thought it was. So there's like literally places where it's like it's raining in one part of the track and not in the other.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Sainz gets on the podium too. He gets 3rd, so it's good for him because like they said they're expecting like, here's a 5th place finish, but. Yeah, and then Bottas, like, he actually, like, sucked of pretty much the entire race, and then they brought him in early for intermediates, and then he came in, like, 4th, or 5th. No, I think it was 5th. Ricardo, it was kind of the same. He, like, came in to pit, and they ended up in 4th. So, it was a lot of people looked like idiots, and a lot of people looked like geniuses, and it was all just a gamble. Like, they had no idea what was going to happen, so.
Yeah. They can't really make like massive judgments against them because they had a coin toss decision to make, and so if you made the right one, oh, what a genius! It's like, no, what a lucky guy.
Well, because like when Hamilton comes into pit, like people are making these things like, Norris, like he can go 5 seconds slower every lap and win this race, and then like, yeah, but what if he can't even like keep it on the track?
If he crashes into the wall, it's going to be a moot point.
And that's also the other thing. Like, what could have been like, had Norris won? What would have looked genius for him is like, and it's amazing. Nobody crashed during this part of the race.
Yeah.
Almost everybody went off the track. Lance Stroll like kind of like checked into a wall, but it was okay. He kept the car going. Even hit his teammate. He also hit Gasly, which ended up being kind of a cool thing because Gasly just spun around, and then like as it came back around, he like hit the accelerator just right and just like kept moving forward like nothing happened. Like it was like he was doing a fucking flip trick on a skateboard with a car. But yeah, so had somebody crashed, like this race could have finished under a safety car, and Lando Norris would have been a genius. But that didn't happen. So
yeah. It's always the random stuff. And this is the last time that racetrack is used, right?
I guess it's going to be there next year. I heard somebody say that. But yeah, they're switching to a St. Petersburg track in the future. But yeah, so in the standings, you got Lewis Hamilton ahead by 2 points over Max Verstappen for the championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that the tightest margin for him in a while?
Oh, yeah, for a while, yeah. Well, like his rookie year, he lost the driver championship by 1 point. And then his second year, he won it by 1 point. But since he's been with Mercedes, he's pretty easily won every year, except for the year he lost to his teammates.
Yeah, he's been the big name for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, looking at the next, there's 7 more races, presumably. There's, they could all be canceled. Like some people are like, not sure if Brazil is going to happen because of COVID stuff.
Brazil.
Just COVID stuff.
Oh, still?
Oh. Yes, I don't know.
Yeah, they're one of the worst countries besides the U.S. for that, sure. Because their president's like Donald Trump, except worse.
Oh, Bolsonaro? Is that okay? Yeah.
He used to be a general. He believes in burning down the Amazon forest for anything, and hates gay people and ethnics, and yeah, he's a real good person.
Huh.
Wow, isn't like Brazil like one of the most ethnically diverse places in the world? He must be.
I don't fucking know.
That must be a really specific hate.
He has every fucking bad stance on human beings you could possibly have. Like he like fucking compliments women sexually all the time too, and yeah, he's just a real winner. And he was elected by youth majority in that country. So it's not old people doing it this time; it's the youth fucking country.
We elected the meme president.
Well, because it was like Trump, they assumed he could get something done. He could be an outsider to all the bullshit or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, wasn't their last president what was his name? Lupo or?
I know they're all corrupt. Like every one of them, doesn't matter if it's majority leader for another party. Like they're all corrupt as shit anyway. So I mean, it's either way, like anything's fucked in that country. But at the same
thought their last president went to prison for a while, but then it turned out like one of the judges had been bribed, and it got overturned. And it's like, wow, they got some wacky stuff down there. I don't follow Brazilian politics, but I know I've heard of Bolsonaro because he's like a exceedingly strange character.
Oh, and he doesn't believe in COVID, obviously, either.
Oh,
I think he's turned away like vaccines and help and shit like that. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice to know. That's stable.
But there's 7 races left. They're adding a Qatar race. I'm gonna ride a Fender.
It's a guitar-shaped track. It's got some really long straightaways, but some weird twisties.
Although I read a weird headline and I didn't go into it further, so I'm obviously making the headline mistake of taking the headline for on complete merit. But they're talking about like the atrocities of the Qatar government, where they've been building stadiums for the World Cup to be hosted there, and apparently like something like 6,500 people have been quote unquote killed while building the
Wow. It's just like, oh, your contract's done. Now we're going to behead you so we don't have to pay you type stuff.
I have no idea. Either that or some sort of like genocide that's being covered up by construction.
Qatar had a rough year in construction accidents. Really, what was it? Yeah, 60% mortality rate for the workers. It's like, what are they doing? Are they demolishing the building as they're building it? What's going on? The world is so fucking horrible sometimes.
Well, it's just like, this has been going on for a while. Like, have reports quite a lot throughout the years. There's a bunch of immigrant workers that are bringing in from outside the country that have no skill. They don't give them safety equipment or anything. So they're just dying by horrible workplace accidents all the time, apparently. So it's just like that's the main reason, I think. I don't know if there's other reasons like poverty and other things that go on. I'm sure there probably is, but that's my understanding of the article to put out for like the last 4 or 5 years when we've been covering like that construction.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's not those Gulf oil states. I always thought they were real moral leaders, but I guess not.
But
well, you and Trump were fooled.
Yeah.
But there's 7 races left, and I think there's 3 races that will favor Mercedes, and the rest will probably favor Red Bull or be about even. So it's going to be a close finish. Because the thing is, the Red Bulls are quicker, but the Mercedes actually have the higher top end speed if you have the runway to unlock it, essentially.
Oh, so Mercedes has got long legs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so like I know because I think the U.S. Grand Prix is next. And the Circuit of the Americas, like it's kind of a windy track, but I think it has a really long straightaway, so that might favor the Mercedes. The only thing there is usually by the time we get to the U.S. Grand Prix, the championship is wrapped up, and so Lewis Hamilton doesn't really have to compete there. So,
yeah.
And then we got the Mexico Grand Prix, which is a pretty fast track, so that might favor the Mercedes. The new Saudi Arabia track is fucking crazy by all accounts, and might favor Mercedes because it just has like a crazy long straight that's just kind of bendy. And they're still building that fucking thing, and it's supposed to be ready in like a month. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. And then I don't know about I think Brazil is kind of small. I think the rest of them are going to favor Red Bull because they're kind of small, windy tracks.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a very close season.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a good, recovery season for F1.
Yeah, well, like
the one race where everyone who bought tickets, like, oh, we've canceled the race. It's like, oh, that's gonna make people happy.
Yeah. Well, last year's season, like for racecraft, it wasn't good, but for like excitement, it was really good. Like so many crazy things happened last year.
Yeah.
Like when people got COVID and like Hulkenberg had 2 days to get in a car, it's like, will they get a magical podium? It's like, no, but it was nice to try. Or when Lewis got COVID and then George Russell was like obviously on the way to win the race, but so many things just got in his way and he had to pit 4 times. But yeah, somebody put up a stat about how like the rookie, the rookies, I think it's the 2018. That's when Norris, Russell, and I'm forgetting his name. The Thai driver who got kicked out last year, or for this year. Oh, Alex Albon. So yeah, they were all rookies in the same year, and like they've all tragically had race wins taken away from them. Because none of them have won a race yet.
Mazepin hasn't won a race either.
No. Jesus Christ. That fucking guy.
Totally legit.
They're just like up in like 13th place for this Grand Prix, and it was his home Grand Prix. It's like, oh, is he doing something interesting? It's like, I don't know. And I saw some like headline that he was like saying like he just because he's in F1 doesn't mean he's going to forego his military service to his country or something like that.
Okay.
And so like maybe that gives him like to save face when he has to get kicked out of F1. It's like, oh, I gotta do my military service.
Yeah.
But I don't really see him getting kicked out of F1 being how much money his dad brings in. So
Yeah. No, money talks in F1.
yeah. Well, I mean, like everybody got out of Haas. Like they have like four sponsors because that Russian company brings in so much money that it works without regular sponsors.
Huh.
Yeah, but everything is locked in for next year, for drivers except for Giovinazzi's seat is still up for debate. That's the only one that hasn't been locked in. So the Haas boys are coming back. I guess that's good for Mazepin. It's terrible for Schumacher. But they presumably Haas has been spending this whole time developing next year's car, which presumably will give them a heads up over everybody else because they've been spending the whole time developing it. But I have no faith in Haas making that leap. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Russell got in the point. He was up in third, but he ended up in ninth, which is good for Williams, being how bad that car is. And they've scored points in the last 4 out of 5 races, which is crazy.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't know if it'll be helpful to them or not. So like the downside of going up in the championship for the constructors is like. So you get more money, but then they have an artificial thing where you get less development time, so you get less wind tunnel time and less computational fluid dynamics time. All that stuff, the higher you are up in the Constructors' Championship. So and because Williams was recently acquired by that whatever the investment firm or whatever. Like it doesn't seem like money is necessarily the problem with them, but they might do better had they have more wind tunnel time. But I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, next year is going to be crazy. So
Isn't every year crazy?
sure, but like I don't know, like I haven't been. Well, I actually went back and watched when the current cars when they went to the hybrids. I watched the first race when they switched to that, and it was like a crazy race because like that's where Magnussen got a pole or got a podium, just out of nowhere, and like all these top drivers, like all these rookies got like points in like their first race, and like both Hamilton and Vettel had to retire because the cars just broke down because they were new and they just wouldn't work right, and it's like, oh, that's exciting. It's like, but these aren't new engines. They're just going to be new cars. So new aerodynamic packages. So I expect the performance. Well, actually, no, the performance is going to change pretty heavily because like these cars are going to have less downforce. So they are going to be slower, but they're going to be better for wheel to wheel racing. But which we'll see.
Yeah, Lamborghini, speaking of cars, not F1, but unless you had anything else for F1.
Well, I guess in 2026, it's almost pretty much signed in the ink that Porsche and Audi will be joining F1, but not as a race team, just purely as engine manufacturers.
Huh, okay.
And we still have no idea what the engines are going to be. It's rumored they're going to be some sort of hydrogen powered car. Either it'll be hydrogen electric or hydrogen combustion.
Huh. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, but because of what it can mean is like, so because they've made these cars cheaper now, there is a cap. It means it'd be more inviting for other people to come in and not have to build their own engine. They have
Yeah.
companies that will sell it to them. So,
Oh, okay.
because like also technically like there's kind of weird stuff on the Renault/Alpine end where it's like, are they gonna keep making engines? That's kind of like up in the air.
Well, we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
See, Lamborghini is making 112 modern versions of its great classic. I don't know how you say that. Countach. The
Oh, yeah.
Countach, yeah.
E80 Countach. Yeah. But they've only made 112 of them. They're a hybrid, and they're about $3.5 million a piece. But they
Well,
look
yeah.
cool.
That's a steal.
Yeah. Colin's gonna buy the last one with his Twitch money.
My favorite one, I can't remember what it was called. It was like the Aventor or something like that. It's one that's like designed to look like it has like all these like triangle things on it. So like if you look at a stealth bomber, like it has all these like weird like triangle angles to like keep radar to deflect in a certain way. That's what makes it like, or helps make it radar be more invisible on radar.
Oh, okay.
That's how the car is designed. It's designed to look like a stealth bomber. That's my favorite looking Lamborghini. But you know, they only made like 10 of them and they're all worth like $10 million or something like that. But in Forza, they're free.
Yeah, that's my attitude towards supercars. In Forza, I can just pay $60 and just get whatever I want with hours more.
Does anybody here have like a so if anybody here had played enough like video game racings to have like a car that you think you would like, but you have no idea if you would actually like it?
Yeah, just like an
Yeah.
Audi R8.
Yeah,
Like playing that, like, oh yeah, this car is fucking awesome. Probably wouldn't be able to drive or shit in real life,
yeah.
but the car is awesome.
Mine's I think it's a 2008 Skyline GTR 2. That's my favorite video game vehicle, and I have no idea if it's actually a good vehicle. It's an all-wheel drive. It's kind of like it bounces towards the middle, tons of acceleration. It's my favorite car in video games. I also like just the way it looks. So. Nathan, what's your favorite imaginary car that you'll never get but you think you'd like?
I don't.
Sorry, I don't know that.
I'm trying to think of what. I always like those 1960s like they look like supercars today. They're like the old Lolas or even the old Ford GT.
Yeah.
It's like stuff like that looks cool. I like those. I know those aren't. I mean, they make them. There's companies that make them that say you can drive this every day, but you got to like creep into this thing that's slammed onto the ground. And, so yeah, something like that. Something with like a horribly powerful engine. It's like you can barely keep it under control, and the engine's like right behind you. Mine,
Yeah.
the plastic in between you and the engine. I think things like that seem cool, but then it's like, oh yeah, imagine driving that all the time. Like it would be just completely miserable. I mean, stuff you couldn't even drive in rain. Like they're just so powerful that there's nothing you could do. But yeah, no real cars. Like I can't think of anything like amazing that I've driven or had experience with, even in a video game. But yeah, something like those old 60s supercars with the gull-wing doors. Or even the doors that like half the door is the roof and they're all fiberglass. Like those always look really. I will watch videos on those for hours. Just imagine, it's like, how could I fit in that? Well, I couldn't. They'd have to take off 2 cylinders so the seat would go back far enough. Because when I think of like, because basically the cars I drive every day are just boring cookie cutter like grocery getter type vehicles.
Yeah.
But when I think of like a car to drive, it's like, yeah, I want something that like wakes the neighbors up. Like I said, it's just so powerful. It's like you don't even put a radio in it because you got to have both hands on the wheel all the time. That looks amazing to me. In real life, I don't know how fun that would be.
Well, I remember they used to have these like it was like a learning racing series. I'm not sure what they use now, but they used to use Dodge Neons as a racing car because they're very small, but they're like really wide for how small they are.
Yeah.
And so they controlled better than normal cars, and they made for great like beginner racing series cars.
Yep, a lot of celebrity races were held in those, where it's just like people have very little or no experience, just jump into cars, or even some of those like what were those Lamborghinis that Adam Carolla had? They were like from the '60s and '70s. Like those, they still kind of had that look, like the Miuras and stuff, but they were really small cars with great big long hoods because they had huge engines in them.
Yeah.
Like that stuff looks fun. Probably horrible and those are made for the streets. So
Yeah, they probably use like Ford Fiestas now because I know there's a lot of those weird like racing conversions to Ford Fiestas just because it's like you take an affordable car and you just add maybe like $5,000 worth of equipment to it and suddenly it's a racing vehicle.
stepping up the suspension, throw a bigger engine in it, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Not too big an engine. I know guys at work that had those Focus. Basically, they were the detuned rally cars. They were called the Focus RS.
Yeah.
I think they were made in Germany. We didn't make them here, but there were guys that bought them at work, and they said, "Oh, this will scare the shit out of you," because they're all-wheel drive, but they were like twin turbocharged, like 2.4 liter engines in a Focus. But they had the real wide tires. I mean, they had to design like fender flares so that to accommodate the tires front and back. But I knew a guy that had one. He's like, "Yeah, that car will scare the shit out of you." He goes, "It won't run like it won't outrun like a big Mustang with a big engine because it just doesn't have that kind of top end." But yeah, just taking off and driving this car because it is all-wheel drive, and it puts power evenly to all four wheels. He said that was amazing, but they cost like $45,000. And because I looked at one, I won't lie, but then I like to insure it. It says, "Oh, this is a rally car." It says it right in the manufacturer's details. It's like, yeah, what's that going to cost? And tires are really expensive because it's an oddball, wide, low tire for an oddball car. So it's like, yeah, just give me a regular Focus.
Or I always like the kind of the stealth cars where it's like the you had like the show Taurus, which is like the high. It's like we put like high end performance stuff in a Taurus, but it looks like a Taurus, exactly like a Taurus, but it has way more performance than you think it would. And it's like this thing looks stupid. Whoa, what the hell?
The old Shogun V6 is what that was called. It's a Mitsubishi twin turbocharged. I think the first generation shows, I think they were dual overhead cam twin turbocharged, which is considered a dangerous combination. Back then, it's like, oh, this will just blow your top end off your motor. But Mitsubishi figured out a way around it.
Well, the other like kind of weird Ford racing car is the Ford Contour, which is it's not a good car, but it's a small size car that they crammed a V6 sideways into.
SVT Contour. Almost bought one. Two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, weirdly. Two-wheel drive. Straight out of Europe, though. They just got a few of them here. Deo sticker off of it and put the Contour thing on. But again, and it got horrible gas mileage. Yeah. Terrible mileage. It's like, why does this thing say 14 miles to the gallon? It's a stick shift. It's like, yeah, that engine sucks gas.
But it's like it's kind of lauded in the tuner community because it's a small car with a big engine.
Yeah, and it has a lot of power.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Jay Leno's Fiesta? Somebody put an SHO 6-cylinder in.
No.
Oh, it's nuts. It's completely crazy. Because the car is really fast in a straight line.
Yeah.
You cannot turn because you'll torque steer because front wheel drive. You'll torque steer yourself to death trying to do that fast. Or maybe his was rear wheel drive. I don't know. But yeah, somebody remember the Fiesta like I had, like the little box with the hatch on, like it was the real tiny car. Yeah. Somebody put a SHO engine in one of those. Call it the Shogun. And it was like, oh, this is weird. And he had one. I think everyone else that had one died.
All right, here's more racing stuff to bore Andrew with. But IndyCar ended And so the Alex Palou is the champion of this year. So
Oh, okay.
I was hoping for Pato Award, but his car like broke down in the last race. He got hit by somebody in the car, like the one of the crankshafts just snapped, and his race was over. So the championship was gone. Although weirdly, Joseph Newgarden like could have almost won. Like had he finished first, and Alex Palou wrecked or whatever and didn't finish the race, he could have won the championship. And Joseph Newgarden has had like a really bad year this year. I mean, he won 2 races, but there was like 3 other races he should have won, and the car just fell apart in the last like 5 laps, like 3 in a row or something like that. But yeah, it's crazy because like Pato Award, like I think he won 3 races and put it on pole 3 times, which basically like out of those stats was more than anybody this year. But because Alex Palou, it's like the importance of the Indy 500s. He came in second, which counts as 2 races, so he basically got 2 second place finishes in a row there. Grosjean didn't do that great in this last race, but he still had a hell of a season. I think he ended up being the best of the rookies.
Yeah.
The only other person he had to beat is Scott McLaughlin, and I think the only reason they're really close points wise is that McLaughlin was doing the oval races, but Grosjean wasn't.
Yeah, that's right. I remember there was something weird about he didn't do the tight oval races.
Yeah. Well, also Jimmy Johnson didn't do them as well. Like, there's actually a lot of new drivers don't do the ovals just out of safety concerns. Like they have to actually. But Grosjean ended up doing 1 oval this year, so he's expecting to do them all. Because he's leaving Dale Coyne. There's like 4 other names in the thing, but Dale Coyne Racing, which weirdly enough, that's the seat Alex Palou had the previous year, and he left to go to, I think, Chip Ganassi Racing, and so he won there. Grosjean is going to Andretti Racing.
Oh, okay.
So he's going to be with a championship caliber team. So, and he will be racing all the races. He's also paired up with Colton Herta, who he won the last 2 races in a row. He's also won like 3 races this year, and it's like so it seems like he's due for something good to happen, go his way. He's really good. They're also he's the one that people are looking at like, hey, maybe he could go to F1 because I think he's 21. And it's like clearly all like, and he's American. So it's like, let's get him in F1 and really get this American propaganda and gear on the F1 side. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't know what else. There's a lot of people just adding. There's a lot of people. There seems like there's going to be way more cars next year because it seems like every team is just adding another car to their team. But they're going to bring Grosjean over. They're dropping one guy, I think Ray Hunter Ray, and I think they're going to add a new car to the team. Dale Coyne Racing is going to add a 3rd car to their team. There's like other teams but there's some teams they don't race every race. It's like there's Ed Carpenter Racing. Like that's literally for a guy named Ed Carpenter who races the car. That's what he does in his spare time.
That's amazing. Oh, who are you sponsoring? Me.
Yep.
Okay.
At least you're honest about it.
There's no ego at all putting your name on the side. Now, okay.
No, he usually likes to race the ovals. Like he likes to race the Indy 500. And so he doesn't race like all the races the year, but somebody else will race his car in those races, so they like kind of keep the car in rotation. Okay. So there's a lot of that going on in IndyCar. So there's a lot of chances in IndyCar.
Big sport.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, all our car talk, being that car talk hasn't been around for like 15 years. But they're still playing it.
Yeah, they're still playing it. Sometimes it's fun to hear. It's like, I got an 88 Civic. It's making a rattling noise. It's like there's almost none of those cars on the road anymore, but these guys are going to tell them how to fix it. It's like, what are they talking about? All these cars from the 80s and the early 90s. It's like, well, because that's shows out of rotation.
Oh, what the genius was about that show is like they could just like they could immediately tell the person what's wrong with the car and how to fix it, but it's the long roundabout and story they make to get there is what they were amazing at.
So weren't those guys like really engineers who?
Oh yeah, they're
cars. Like I know they were like really smart.
yeah. Because I think they literally ran their shop out of Harvard. No, I don't think they were like Harvard graduates and shit, but yeah, they worked with like Harvard engineers and stuff like that. Like, yeah, this is how a car works and shit like that. So yeah, those guys were super, super smart, but they make sure to sound as dumb as possible. They make sure that we're not dumb as possible. They make you sound like somebody's uncle who fixes your car. Like that's how they intentionally do that. They could sound smarter and more elitist if they wanted to, but thankfully they did not.
Yeah. Yeah, they were interesting guys. I didn't always agree with them, but they were interesting guys. Because a lot of like the YouTube mechanics channels that are popular, like those guys are in their 70s. Like their channels are dropping off because they're just getting to the point where they're not crawling around engine bays in cars anymore. And those are the guys that know how to work on cars.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some young guys, but the young guys are like, we're going to cram, 5 turbochargers in this car and blow the engine in 6 seconds, but it's going to be fun. And no, I like the ones where they are talking about how to fix a normal car. But all these guys that are retiring, they're saying, you can't work on these cars anymore. They're one and done throwaways. Because it's like the one guy said, most cars built right now will run 150,000 miles with no major problem. Just brakes, oil, all that. And then after that, like it's a crapshoot. And once it's gone, it's going to cost you more money to fix it than it's ever been worth. And he's like, they're all doing this on purpose. They all say Toyota started it, but everyone's like, yeah, all cars are made this way now. I can't disagree with that. I mean, I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, it's
like getting a new iPhone every year. You gotta get a new car every 7 years or something, which I don't want to do. But
no, because your car. I mean, most people are getting fucking 7-year car loans or 8-year car loans. So if your car doesn't even last the length of the fucking loan, that's.
I remember the dealer told us that because we were looking at cars and because we just drive like the cheapest thing you can lease, like whatever employee lease I can get on a car for $200 a month. I've been doing that for like 8 years. Like I haven't had a car payment of any substance for a long time, and now it's getting to the point like those cars just aren't available anymore. So they weren't getting money on them. That's why I was getting a $200 a month lease on it because nobody's buying them. And it's like, how do you pay for this shit that's like $40,000-$50,000? They're like, oh, you can go 8 years on this. It's like, who's going 8 years on a car? It's like almost everyone that buys them. I was like, oh, this is nuts. I said, I'm just not going to be able to buy a new car, am I? And it's like, no, not you and your wife are like, you like jump out of the chair and run away whenever we throw a price at you. Which is weird because they're always like, well, you work for the company. It's like, well, they're not paying me $1 million a year, but yeah.
Well, because I got pissed when I saw that I still got 2 or a year and a half left to pay on my car. So technically, I got a 7-year loan. I thought I got a 6-year loan, and I still didn't like that fact. So
yeah, I got a 6-year loan on a used car.
I never before I started leasing. All my loans were 4 years. The loan for my Harley Davidson was 3 years. That was $900 a month. That was a Harley Davidson too, and it was a 3-year loan because they all had. If you didn't get those short loans, they all had like interest rates on them that were not, they're like 8% or something. It's like, well, fuck that. I'm just going for the shortest term I can get. Now it's like 7 years, 8 years, no interest. It's like, oh, so you're just using their money, but it's still, I would not, and it's still $600 a month payment. If you get like a really nice vehicle, it's like, oh, and my house payment is not much more than that. I know I'm sounding like an old person now, but it's like, this is crazy.
Oh, I know. Mine's $454 a month, and I was counting on it coming off next July, and then it's not going to fucking happen now. So it pisses me the fuck off because I need to get shit paid down, not keep the same cycle. So
the countdown has begun. What were you going to say, Conlon? We got 10 minutes.
I was just gonna ask if you wanted to ride out the 10 minutes or like stop early and start a new thing.
Stop now.
Okay, I'll call you guys back.
All right.
I'm crying over you.
Thought I recognized that.
Huh?
Thought I recognized that. Little Garvey. Garvey Digital. So yeah, who's buying cars in the future? I don't know.
I don't
Well-
know either because
Well, that's the people that can't afford houses, so that's their house now.
well, I mean, Nathan has a point though. Like, I don't think I'm middle class. I'm definitely upper low class, but I'm not making enough money every year to like fucking, I don't know, like buy a car and keep my house in order and shit. Like, I can't fucking do both. Like, maybe I can do one car, like pay it for 5 years or 4 years or whatever, and then try and ride it out for 10 or 12 years with the same car. But it's not like maintenance comes free with it or anything, or gas or any of that shit. It's like, might just be walking in public buses in our future because I don't fucking. I mean, it would suck for getting groceries.
Well, if you live in a city.
Oh yeah, but it's just like. Fucking
And if
anything
there's not
else.
if we're not covered with new pathogens, then where people can't be within more than 10 feet of each other. Is that whole
Yeah.
public transportation idea? It's like, yeah, it sounds all good, but boy, COVID shot that right in the ass. It's like, wait a minute, we can't all get in a big metal virus tube.
Sure, you can.
These buses are just a viral incubator. I'm still shocked that people fly. I still can't believe that people are doing that now. It's like, let's get in this aluminum tube where all the air just, hangs
Yeah.
around. I guess if you have to, or you want
Yeah.
to. I mean, I don't even go to model club meetings anymore. So,
Oh, okay. I
But
kind of didn't know.
well,
what
that's
was going
because
on.
of the people that are there and things I know about. So none of them, I'd say. I mean, I'm not going to talk out of turn, but I am because I know some things. It's like, oh yeah, half these people aren't even vaccinated, and it's none of one's wearing a mask, and it's like, I don't care if I just thought you would get sick and die. Like, well, that's your choice, but I don't want to go in there with a full blown case of this with my 7-month-old vaccine and like roll the dice with somebody's, has a, the worst version of it or whatever. So.
Well, it's just something where, like, for being part of like a model and gaming community, like, yeah, there's plenty of people that are like men and very, don't know how to interact with women or other people, but at the same time, it's a very creative community that's good to itself. So you think it wouldn't be like a, like very fighting getting a vaccine and fighting, other people being safe and shit, but they really do. It's just like any other group. There's just a lot of people that don't care about anybody else.
Well, my group in particular, it's like me and 2 other guys are the only people that weren't ever in the military there. Like we're like the oddballs because we weren't. So those guys come from that whole background. And Conlon can tell you some of the mentality that exists there. It's like, don't trust the government. Don't be a cock. Don't do all this. It's like, you worked for the government. Why do you hate them so? But I don't say those things because then I'm just being a communist. So
don't shake the boat, Captain.
Don't be a communist. Aren't you getting free healthcare from the government? Fuck you, commie.
Yeah, VA. How does that cost every month? Shut the fuck up. I earned that. It's like you have emphysema from smoking cigarettes. You didn't throw yourself on a fucking hand grenade. You don't know what you're talking about. All right. I surrender.
Well, it's just something where, like, literally, I don't understand why the fuck people are so against, like, hey, you don't like paying like fucking $4,000 to get a shot and like, get like emergency surgery on you, do you? Well, not really. It could be cheaper with, doing state or social, basically state-backed healthcare. It wouldn't be perfect still, but it'd be better. Oh no, that's communist. It's like it's communist because you don't pay as much. That's why it's communist. It's like,
no, it's communist because they didn't have the choice. They didn't have the artificial choice to choose from.
Well, it's like all this shit that's going on with the transportation bill and the Great Society bill and those 2 things that Biden's trying to fight out. And it's like, oh yeah, we gotta means test that and we gotta subject that to everything we possibly can because somebody might get something out of it. But it's like, oh, we need $10 billion to develop an anti-moon missile. Okay, yeah, cool. Or and remember, all the people that work for the government, they'll get socialized health care. Like, every one of them, congressmen, senators, they all get the best health care you can get. It's all paid for. They don't pay for it. But anything that involves us, it's like, oh, we gotta really get in there and get down to the brass tacks. It's like, oh yeah, okay, because it's like, oh, they're gonna raise the debt on this to the point that we can't pay for it. It's like, yeah, they're gonna raise taxes on people that have more money than God. Are you really worried about this? This is not going to affect you at all.
Yeah, but I want to be a god someday.
But it lowers creation of jobs that pay minimum wage, Nathan. How much does that have 3 minimum wage jobs if 2 of them don't exist anymore because they raise taxes on the rich?
Yeah.
I mean, Walmart.
I mean, you can tell the government knows what's coming though because they're talking out 2 sides of their mouth. Because now they want to audit people if they get, or they want to look at your bank account if you get more than $600 a week put in it or $600 deposited at one time. You know what that's about? That's not going after rich people for taxes. That's about all the criminal shit that's going on. Where it's, I mean, if you're going to commit crimes, you're dumb enough to put it in the bank, and you can't, you don't have a W-2 or something that can back it. You're like, you're not a good criminal.
Time to go back to the mattress vault days.
Yeah. Well, I guess my mom's gonna get investigated occasionally when she loans me money to pay for shit I can't afford.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work for normal. I mean, it's probably not going to affect people like us because we all legitimately have jobs, or we can at least account for where our money comes from. Yeah. But yeah, it's still something kind of weird. Like $600 is unfortunately is not a large sum of money nowadays, and it's like, you want to set up a computer system that tracks that? Okay, what are you looking for? Just tell me what you're doing, and fine.
Well, yeah. It's what are they setting up? Like, what would they have to set up? Like, they just go to the bank and it's like, hey, did that happen? Like, yep, because they already have a computer system that tracks that.
Well, no, they need to add like something. They need to integrate it with the IRS. They said that's what the spending thing is about. Because they have to integrate that more fully with the IRS because
as they're trying to get this like for like, you know, like your grandparents give you like $100 for your birthday and they want to track that. It's like, hey, you didn't declare that on your tax.
It could. Well, it's more than 600 is the limit now.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
yeah.
could be something like that. I don't know.
It'll go down to you buying $25 with a Burger King. You see your press, the IRS will knock on your door. What the fuck are you doing spending $25 at Burger King, Conlon? You can't fucking do that right now. You know how shitty the economy is. So fuck. I mean, I don't like the whole fucking, like, I get it. They're trying to track down people that are tax cheats, but they're doing a very bad job of it. On, like, if you're, how much money do you get out of $600? Like $100, 125. Like, that's not that much. I mean, yes, over like 1 million people, that's a lot of money. But
I don't know like why where that number got pulled out of, or like why it's even significant. It just becomes a headline and we just hear and we
No, I read all about what they're trying to do. I mean, because I thought it's like, oh, is this some conspiracy shit? And then I went to like crazy websites like NPR, and it's like, no, they're really doing it, and nobody's giving a clear answer what they're looking for. I mean, they'll give you a vague answer, but I mean, I mean, what they're looking for is people who work for cash, I guess.
Well, who's the bill written by? Or did it say?
Oh, it's Democrats. It's because the
Oh.
Republicans are dead against it. That's the only reason we know about it, is they made a big deal out of it. That's why the first places I heard of it were some really right-wing sources, and I was like, oh, this must be bullshit. And then I went and looked it up. I was like, oh, no, they're really doing this. Now, they're putting a slightly different spin on it than it's like, Big Brother's watching you. He's like, well, he already is, so.
yeah, this is gonna be a thing that the Republicans rail against, and then when they're in power, they'll just put it through.
Hey, we can fuck more people with this. Oh, yeah, let's put this through. Make sure Jeff Bezos gets more money. We can cut his taxes and fuck poor people. We can threaten them with $125,000 of fines. And
Can we make like a wheat thrasher that fucks poor people?
Yeah, just the poor people fucking.
We have too many people to fuck, and Viagra and lube isn't enough, so we need to really speed this up here, guys.
Oh no, with the poor, you drop it in dry. They need to be taught a lesson. They need to learn. Why are you so fucking poor? That's this whole country.
You're supposed to save money. You have to save 20% of your paycheck. Well, by rent and food.
If I thought there was a future to save for, I would.
You're supposed to live communally with dozens of other families and sleep on the floor and only shower once every 3 days. You know, this is that bright future we're talking about.
Well, you know, you gotta. I mean, that's my whole argument all along with like paying people living wages and making sure nobody's gonna get fucking rich off of it, where they can literally retire at like 40 or anything. But at the same time, you have to give people a future to look forward to. They won't have kids. And they won't participate in society if they're not gonna fucking have a future.
Hey, I wish everyone made as much money as I did. I really do, because then I wouldn't have to worry about this shit. I wish they made the same money I did, had the same benefits, because I don't really feel superior to anyone, except I laugh at a lot of stupid people. But, you know, other than that, it's like I wish everyone made good money, because we wouldn't have to worry about this shit all the time. We could find other things to worry about, like, well, I like this brand of coffee better than that. I would rather have those discussions than the imminent demise of civilization. Like, that this is not a conversation I want to keep having every year with grimmer and grimmer statistics about, you know, A, B, or C. Pick your thing. I want to talk about, like, I don't like vanilla flavored coffee, and have vigorous arguments about that. Not, well, who cares if kids don't get medicine? You know, I don't. Those aren't conversations I want to have anymore, or ever have. So that, yeah, that's my thing, is like, I wish everyone could, you know, had good money, a pension, good health care, because then we could fight about stupid shit. And we would. We absolutely would. It would. The tempo wouldn't decrease, but it would be really unimportant. At the end of the day, you could laugh about it, because, like, well, it doesn't matter who likes vanilla flavored coffee. No one's dying. But you can't have those conversations because everything's stupid. And the worse it gets, the more draconian the governments are going to get. And none of these people that claim to love freedom see that. They're like, oh, we want freedom from taxes and governance and everything else. It's like, well, you're not going to get that. because the more of that you have, the more the government's going to crank down on the rest of us, and pretty soon you'll have tanks in the fucking streets because it's the only way they can maintain order. Because when everyone's poor and desperate, they're just going to start killing each other, and there's already many examples in the world of countries that are like that, and I don't want to live in one. So, but you
No,
can't
and
get that through to anyone.
I mean, the economics of it is you put more money in the economy, you should technically see a bigger return and more jobs created and more stability. But I don't know if anybody actually thinks about it that way anymore. We've waited so long to change anything. It will be a drastic upheaval of whatever's going on right now.
I
that-
don't even know, because I think that this is such this economy we have. I'm just talking about the United States, but it seems that this is matriculated into the rest of the world too. It is like a weird pyramid scheme. I don't think we really have an economy. I think all those principles, all that Joseph Smith stuff, that went out the window like in the 90s, and this has just been some weird thing we prop up. Because now we're not even basing things on like how many tractors can you produce or whatever. It's like, what's the potential value of software company that only sells advertising on? That's like the richest company in the world sells advertising on YouTube. It's like, how's that fucking real? it's like you can't count that in a lot. And I know they say, what's a new economy? It's an information based economy. It's like, yeah, information is put that on a scale next to hope and prayers, and let's see which weighs more, because the information you're getting is obviously not good.
Oh no, it balances out. It's both nothing.
Yeah, it's zero. So I'm really starting to think like this whole thing is just like a giant. It's not even a scam. It's just like, this is how we keep the dam from collapsing. It's just we got to keep saying, yeah, this works. This works no matter what. When
this only works if everyone perceives it to have value. If they don't, then we're fucked.
It's like the world economy is now a religion where you just have to believe in it. It's like there's no real metrics that you can measure.
Imagine if you went to Wendy's and you handed them a credit card. It's like, that's not tangible. You're gonna need to kill a fresh deer, bring it in.
Yeah.
if you want a spicy chicken sandwich.
Yeah, you better start bringing some animal carcasses in, because that has tangible value. Yeah, I'm really starting to believe that too. Like, this has got to be a Ponzi scheme. It's just like there's no way that this really works.
Well, I mean, I think our government, right now, like how much money we actually have in the treasury and how much money we're projected to make, like, we needed to raise taxes a long time ago, because we're fucking facing a bunch of shit where now anybody talking about raising taxes, like, oh, you're fucking a piece of shit.
Well, that's the great thing about America. It's like, that's always the thing. Of like, it's like supposedly China holds the bill on this, and if they want to like come due, like it'd be the end of America. But it's like, no, America's too big. No one's gonna come and collect from America. It's just gonna be the end of the world one day.
Okay, China, we've printed a $10 trillion mega eagle coin for you. Here it is. We'll give you this for all the treasury bills you hold, which are worthless. And you bought them knowing they were worthless. T-bills are fucking worthless because we're just piled full of debt. And the ultimate austerity regime that's going to come to America when the bills do is mushroom clouds. It's like that. You're not suddenly, this isn't a problem anymore. Now it's like, I hope bugs don't come and eat these potatoes I need. That's going to be the new concern.
But also, like, there's, I'm not sure how this works now, but it's like, we got off the gold standard and we went to the what's
net
the
value standard.
And it's basically like every time, and it's because like Americans are technically like worth more. It's like what holds value is like you as a person existing and you have a name, and like it's like when you sign. When you sign a credit card thing, like that's your value as a person. That's the economy. So like the more people we have and the more they're American, that's like all the total perceived values like through that. So it's all theoretical.
Yeah.
And also if we went back to the gold standard, that would also be a total nightmare and destroy everything. So
well, you know how much gold there is in the world, right?
No.
If you take a football field and made it into a square, 100 yards by 100 yards on all sides, even. Well, it's not. It's a rectangle, so it wouldn't be even. But basically, if you took a football field and made it into a giant, like 3-dimensional object, that's the volume of gold in the world. That's it. It's not like there's like, oh, Mount St. Helens is full of gold. It's as tall as the Empire State Building. No, there's just really not that much. You could do silver because there's a lot of that, but those systems don't work because we had to incorporate debt into everything. And because someone was talking the other day to me about how, Germany, it's against their federal government's law to run a deficit. I'm like, yeah. You know why? Because they don't really have to defend themselves. All they worry about is themselves and developing and their businesses also work in concert with their government to make sure people have jobs and there's a certain level of value there.
And isn't also that's kind of how World War II and Hitler came about?
What's that?
Them like having to owe money to countries because
we called in. They owed money to us.
Yeah.
And we called in their chit, and all of a sudden they're invading Czechoslovakia. It's like, well, that's not related. It has nothing to do with America.
They're looking for coins in the couch cushions of Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
We gotta pay America, man.
But no, all those countries that don't have to like project global power, they all have. Because if they don't meet, if their budget exceeds their demands, they just raise taxes across the board on everyone. They not just. The guy at the bottom will pay like an extra 10 marks or euros or whatever they're using, and the guy at the top will pay 100,000 more. But then next year, if their budget's balanced, the tax doesn't go up. So, or you become like Italy, which they have that too, but then they do what they call austerity regimes, which means they'll just take away some of your medical care and stuff. And it's like, so yeah, these countries do have that. However. They also don't like eat themselves either. They're Germany also has like 12% unemployment constantly too. So keep that in mind. Because if we have 12% unemployment here, it's like the depression has returned. In a lot of those countries, that's just normal because.
Well, like we've all read The Expanse and stuff like that, and I keep forgetting the new book's gonna come out like next month, supposedly still, or the last book, sorry. But anyway, like them talking about just like. Yeah, it's just, when you get automated, when you have all this stuff, like, you can't have, like, a 2% unemployment rate. It's just not a thing. There's only so many people that have college education, that have money to run a business, or the will, or the know-how to run a business. Like, otherwise, you're just workers, like me. Like, I don't know if I can run a business. I don't know if I want to try.
Well, that's the whole thing, which they're trying out now in places, is like the universal basic income, which is how the Expanse universe works, at least on Earth. It's like we have all these people, they're just going to get in trouble. It's like, give them money.
Well,
give them money, food, and a place to go.
The thing with the Expanse that they're kind of subtle about, though, is like corporations run Earth. There's a government there, but it's like pretty anemic. You see them they show power sometimes when it all falls apart.
Well, yeah, everything gets fucked up from the proto-molecule because of a private corporation.
Yeah. So private power runs everything, and they're also competing against Mars, which was like Mars is like Germany, like everyone's with 100% employment and lots of innovation. There's no innovation on Earth because they have like 7 billion people they can't do anything with.
And no more resources.
and nothing. Yeah.
Except for a planet with living, oxygen and shit like that. But.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to pay for oxygen on Earth. But see, supporting Earth, why the Belters are slaves and why they want to revolt, because all that their wealth gets sucked back to Earth.
Yep.
Support that, and that's why Mars declared its independence from Earth. But Mars is its own evil, weird thing that doesn't work either. Because I don't know, they didn't say this in the series, but in the book where they crash the rocks into Earth, one thing Ava Sorella said is like, yeah, about 3 billion people are going to die. And she's like, we couldn't do anything with that anyway. So it was like, oh, okay. Because you know how she is. She's a little harsher in the books than the show, but she was like, that's terrible. But it's like, they weren't doing anything.
I think being realistic is just harsh anymore. Because, it's like, you definitely, yes, it's more Republican mindset. You can't help everybody and you shouldn't help everybody, I guess. But at the same time, just a reality situation of a difficult problem. Like, there's always going to be a loser, and there's always going to be somebody that suffers because of it. It's horrible that that's the way it has to be, but it just doesn't change the facts of anything.
Well, it used to be there was a few ways we got out of that dynamic. Is wars, which we can't really do anymore because they're really wildly destructive, and innovation. But all the innovation up until recently involved like, okay, we went from steam power to coal. It always created more and added, we need more people with this kind of skill or that kind of skill. Now the problem is we're just getting rid of the people factor. It's just a bunch of machines doing things and people just sitting around like, well, I can't do it faster than that thing. And it's free. All you got to do is put electricity and oil in it and it'll keep running. And that's the problem we're at now is like, there's nothing for a bunch of people to do, you know. People like me that aren't good at math, this world offers nothing to me. You know, it's like I have no skills that I could share. I could be like a propagandist or something, but that's they got enough.
No, I mean, it's just like so if you work at that plant or whatever, like you can't lose your job because you're union protected, hopefully, or they have to go through at least some process to fire you legitimately from that job. But a machine is just, there's nothing to it. It's just like, nope, just spend money, just upgrade it, put new repair parts in it, do whatever. There's no like consequences to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the
that's the thing. Except for like, hey, we need to buy a new machine. And like, fuck that, run this thing into the grave.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, and the shit we're making, nobody can buy it anymore because they don't have jobs. I mean, that's what like Walter Reuther told the guys at the auto industry guys when they were saying how, yeah, we're going to put all these robots in and it's going to put guys out of work. And he's like, yeah, those fucking robots don't buy your trucks. And it's like, where you don't have because even in the 70s, like before the Japanese stuff and the oil crisis got really big here, it's like you don't export a lot of these cars. Your market is America. They're not buying Suburbans in England. Okay, they can't drive them down the streets. They're too big and they can't afford to put gas in them. So if you want to put a bunch of Americans out of work, and this was before they went to Mexico. So there's two things that happened in the auto industry that made it weird. One was automation, which wasn't really wildly effective in the 70s, but it was there. And then the other thing was, oh yeah, you can just build all this shit in Mexico and your customers won't revolt against you because everyone hates everyone now. So it's like, fuck those guys. I don't care if they make money. It's like, yeah, that's nice. A lot of them found out too, and they started closing all the little shops and stuff near those plants when they close. It's like, wait, I don't have any customers anymore. It's like, yeah, and you hated those people the whole time. So now your wish is granted. You don't have to be burdened with your customers or your business or your livelihood. It's all just go live in the fucking woods, sell everything, live in the woods.
Wait, the Brazilian president burnt down all the woods.
Oh yeah, there's no more words.
No, and that's the thing. It's like the guy that runs my hobby shop who was bitching about the stimulus half the time. And it's like, well, because, he didn't get enough of it because he made too much money. It's like, yeah, because that's my problem. We make too much money not to qualify for the stimulus. That's my thing. And it's like, even if I did,
then just give me some of this shit for free and write it up as a loss. Give me $5,000 worth of shit for free, lose that money, and then you can get a $1,200 stimulus check. Yay!
But it's just like, how can we afford to give people money right now? It's like, we're not even giving them a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's enough to, like, give, like, a little shot in the arm, stimulus, ha, ha. But it's, like, at the same time...
And pretty much all that money they gave to poor people went right back into the economy. It boosted it severely during the pandemic.
Yes.
I actually felt bad getting that. I was on Spacey. I was like, we don't qualify for that. Because I was fully employed all but 9 weeks of that. And that 9 weeks, I got all the enhanced unemployment plus sub pay. So I was, like, actually making the same money for being not at work. And the rest of the time, I've been fully employed until recently, the chip shortage, but that's different. And I was like, why are they giving us stimulus money? We're doing fine. I mean, I didn't run out and donate it to a church. I put it in my kid's college fund, but it's still like, it was kind of, I thought it was kind of weird. But it's like, okay, they say I'm getting it, so I'm getting it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, that's the thing. It's like, if you didn't need it, you either saved it, invested it, or spent it. So you still benefited the economy in some way by either giving yourself a backup plan if you fell on hard times.
Wait, you gave money to people who it's literally worthless for them to invest, so they spend it.
Yeah.
No, I know. I'm just saying. It's like you did something with it to benefit either yourself or the economy. because that's what everybody did with it.
Well, I mean, no, this is counterintuitive to everybody's or Republicans thinking of trickle down economics. It's like, well, we got to give money to rich people because they're the people that make jobs. It's like, no, they don't. They find creative ways to get rid of jobs.
Or pay people not enough money, so they need to be on government support. So yeah, it's not. Yes, do they own the majority of businesses? Hell yeah. Do they have a big GDP put together? Fuck yes. They're one of the best independent countries in the world.
No, but like this is because I follow Dave Meltzer, which is called he follows wrestling and UFC and stuff like that. And when he gets into it's not just about the storyline, he's talking about the literal business of it, and he's talking about I think WWE is looking to sell because they're firing all their employees and that raises the stock price. It's like, what the fuck? How does that make any sense? And it's it makes sense to Wall Street. It's like, well, you're not paying those people anymore. That's a commitment. It's like, don't those people make you fucking money? It's like, I don't know, we just make content, man.
No, and that's the thing. Making bad business decisions actually hurt your business in the long run is supposed to be good for your stock price. It's like if I went out and fucking burnt my house down because I was like, I don't pay a mortgage anymore, that means my income is freed up or whatever. It wouldn't be good for me. It doesn't make any sense to call it good to me because it's not. I took an asset and I turned it into nothing but tinder. It's not a fucking good thing. Employees that know what the fuck they're doing and still work there. It's not like they love working there, but they show up every day because they need the paycheck and they're loyal in that way. But you're going to fire them because you want to have a nice increase in income that quarter. It's like, oh, look, we made an extra $8 million this quarter. It must have been great sales. Oh, no, we just fired a bunch of people. Our sales actually were down. It just proves nothing in the end. It just proves how fucking stupid they are.
It's just like when President Shithead, I'm talking about Trump, when he did those put the tariffs on the steel. I got a steel plant right across the road from me. It's being decommissioned right now because they put tariffs on steel. The cost of American steel went up. Those guys made a bunch of money. They gave themselves, the people ran the companies gave themselves big bonuses and closed the fucking steel plants. It's just their big hurrah was like, well, this is what Trump did. And it also made the cost of cars and everything else made with steel go up. I mean, proportionally, he raised a 30% tariff on steel. Cost of cars went up almost 30%. It's because they're not absorbing that fucking cost. They're going to pass that right along to the people. And that's how it works. But, no, it was a big victory for America. It's this is going to guarantee American product. No, it isn't. It's all half those steel plants are going to close. They're not going to give the employees anything. I mean, the guys at U.S. Steel, the actual workers, they got $10,000 bonuses earlier this year. But U.S. Steel is they're a big player. They're going to play at that scale. But a lot of people around here, the AK Steel, the Severstall plant, all that stuff that was owned overseas, they just took that money and ran. They ran a year's worth of production. They're like, okay, now we've made enough money. We're just going to close it. And we're going to have this big empty steel mill next door. All directly a result of that. Because they're in an amalgamated local with us. And this guy wrote a big, long article about how this is how Trump fucked us. And he named the CEO of the company, named the people that own it. He listed their bonuses, because that's public information. He's like, this is what he did, guys. So all you people that voted for him, that worked at this plant, be sure to send him a nice Christmas card. Because he did it.
Yeah.
But, he was just called a communist and a sheep for that or whatever. Or a cuck or a baby blood drinker, or, whatever.
Snowflake.
Yeah, just whatever.
No, I know, and that's the thing. It's I can email my senator and Congress people all I want, and I've thought about it, or still thinking about it right now with the whole fucking debt ceiling shit. But at the same time, it's I vote for people to fucking be in office, and then it never fucking happens. The only time it has was voting for Biden this time, but didn't even win Iowa anyway. But at the same time, it's I vote for people that are Democrats not because I want to, because at least they don't seem like they're batshit insane and answer only to Jesus. So,
it's what I call the least destructive choice.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to someone, I used that line that I used on the podcast about if you want to talk to me about how Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's economic policies when she was running for president didn't benefit working Americans, I can have that conversation. But if you want to talk about her running around in a goat mask killing a baby, I can't talk to you because
Yeah.
I have nothing to say to that. And the response I got from one guy was, well, why wouldn't you want to talk about that? That's serious shit. I'm like, it didn't happen. It's a fucking lie. That's why I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about the Easter Bunny either, because I found out 2 years ago that wasn't true. I'm still kind of pissed about it. But
As you should be.
it's like, what the fuck? What do you mean I don't want to talk? It's like, yeah, because it's a lie. Do you not get that? And he's just looking at me, giving me a weird look. It's like, and I know I'm talking to a fucking moron. I understand that. I shouldn't expect anything different. But it's like, yeah, that sounds pretty serious. It's like, no, it isn't. It's
Not
not.
at all, actually.
It's not a conversation we can have about politics. If that's really going on, then we are fucked. That's what people are doing. Because that means Satan is real, and that's why they're in power, and we better, figure out a side pretty quick. Because this whole not worshiping Satan apparently isn't working out for the majority of America.
Hey, I mean, I think Satanists have been on the right side of all the issues so far. I mean, guaranteeing abortion, talking about separation of church and state. I mean,
Well, that's not Satan. That's Satanists.
Satanists, like, I know. I'm just saying, Satanists have been right all this time. Maybe it's just a ploy to get more followers. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Satanists aren't really like religious. That's like it's the whole thing is that it's like a farce on Christianity. It's not actually about worshiping Satan.
Well, I've always said I don't have a problem with God. I have no problem with God at all. He doesn't bother me at all. There's a reason why, but I really have a problem with his fan club. It's like, that's who I have a problem with. It's not a problem with God. All the stuff God does.
God's like Rick and Morty. It's a fine show until the fans get involved.
Yeah. They just ruin everything. It's like comedy shows that get ruined by comments from the peanut gallery. It's like, we're not here to listen to you, Bill. We're here to listen to the comedian we paid for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have zero problems with God. This is fan club. Drives me crazy.
I'm just as funny as Louis C.K. I didn't even touch any women inappropriately or anything.
That's why you're not funny.
Need that dark edge.
I only pull my dick out for my significant other. Doesn't that make me cool? In an era of just hooking up with randoms, doesn't being dedicated to one person, doesn't that make me an outlier? Doesn't it make me cool?
Yeah. I'm faithful to my wife, and I've never even chased her around with my dick. Am I like a weird outlier guy now?
Wait, everyone's doing this, right?
I mean, I think that's a legitimate argument, to be honest. Like, everybody else, it seems like, I mean, obviously younger people, not everybody's the same, but it's like hookup culture seems to be huge with a lot of people. And
No, it's not. It's just reported as being such.
Yeah.
Because why would you hear about people not having sex? There's plenty of studies that say that people are having less sex than they ever have before. But you read one article about somebody texted somebody and then they were in an orgy. It's like, oh, this is what everybody's doing. No, they aren't.
I'm missing out.
No.
Yeah, no one wants to see a video of someone just staring in the screen for fucking 80 hours a week. It's like, this is sex in America. This guy playing Pong. He's not even whacking off. He's just staring at a screen. It's like, yeah, this is really what's going on in the country. And and every other person is as big as a water buffalo. So I don't think there's just tons of screwing going on. And everyone's too depressed. They're all taking their anti-suicide pills. Those depression pills, they fuck your sex drive all up.
Yeah.
So it's they're the younger people who look into the future and just see a gray abyss, or not yeah, let's have a bunch of kids. Let's start screwing, Yeah,
because the stories you hear about hookup culture now is nothing to compare to shit in the 60s.
70s.
Yeah, no.
30s and 60s.
That's what was the Adam Carolla golden time in America? Mid-Coke, pre-AIDS.
Yeah.
Those people were fucking... What, you're pregnant? Ah, cool. What's my name? John Smith.
No, I mean, it's just something where it's hard to, I obviously don't think I'm ever going to be in the dating scene ever again, regardless of anything, but at the same time, I don't know, I'm just more basing my experiences on people I know that actually are, either dating or trying to date or have dated recently. Because when I fucking started dating my wife like fucking 12 years ago now, like fucking definitely wasn't the same as it is now. There wasn't any fucking app on your phone to be like, let's smash dick and badge together. Let's do that. Or let's send, I'll try and create. I mean, all my profiles are more or less the same.
Those apps don't exist. They say they exist, but they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can get an app and find a woman. It's like, hey, who wants to make the beast with two backs? It's like, I'll meet you over here, and you're either going to pay $500 or get a knife slid between your ribs and lose all your credit cards, but you're not going to be making it.
Yeah, all these people hooking up, it's either one person has money or one person's good looking. Like, that's good looking people and people with money hook up.
Yeah.
Can I be a modern
and two drug addicts who don't have any future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Scab Picker 69. Looking for someone with hollowed out eyes and sunken cheekbones. And they don't actually have sex. They just shoot heroin and just pass out on the floor. Like, are you dating? I guess. Till death do us part, right? Quick, bring the fentanyl. You know what would make this date perfect? Horse tranquilizers.
For both of us, it's not rape.
Yeah, like I said, no one's sex organs are working anymore. On too many SSRI uptake inhibitors.
Speaking of sex organs, we watched the movie this week.
Oh, we can go on like this for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right, Mom and Dad? They love this kind of podcast.
Um,
Watch the uplifting 1984 film The Hit, directed by Stephen Frears, starring Tim Roth, John Hurt, and Terrence Stamp. 3 of my favorite actors.
Although it's like, usually you love Terrence Stamp when he's angry at people, and he's pretty happy this whole movie, but he's still pretty good. So
yeah, I mean, Terrence Stamp's just a watchable guy. No, my favorite Terrence Stamp is like the
Limey.
I'm coming! This wasn't that. This was the reflective criminal Terrence Stamp.
Yeah.
I did not love this movie.
No, I mean, it's pretty bleak movie, but and also like it's just kind of like empty, but like it's done that way on purpose. Because I actually really like the music in the opening.
Yeah.
But then it's like there's almost like the rest of the movie has no music.
There's a reason for that. It got stripped out.
Oh, okay.
They only had the right to the Eric Clapton and Roger Waters stuff on the Criterion Collection. Because when I was doing research for this, I was watching clips, and there was a bunch of Spanish, kind of like ballads and stuff like that, real high-speed music that they play in Spain. Like when he was chasing her, when John Hurt was chasing her down through the junkyard or whatever, and he was going to shoot her. Like there was a cool music to that, but it got all stripped out for this for some reason.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
Weird rights issues.
Yeah. But anyway.
And now I'm trying to reflect on like he's standing at the hill at like a grave, and I realize I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, there was scenes like that in this movie. It's like, okay, and they're gonna talk. Nope, okay, we're gonna go on to the next thing.
Because I'm not even sure like who's that character, because it's the character has their back turned, so I don't know if that's Terrence Stamp or John Hurt, because everybody's dead in the movie except for the woman, but it's not her and there's just like a rock grave at the top of a hill.
I always thought that was like a meditation on everything that happened in the movie, and I thought it was Terrence Stamp.
Okay.
But it wasn't clear that it was. That's what I saw it as.
Yeah.
Because this movie starts out like, oh, this is going to be like a London gangster movie.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of those Long Good Friday vibes in it.
Yeah.
It's like we got a bunch of coppers, and I don't want to go to the Knicks, so I'm gonna turn grass on my the guys I was robbing banks with, and it was a lot of that dialogue. It's like, oh, it's gonna be one of those movies.
Yeah, you can see English courtrooms with all the weird wigs and stuff like that. And
and all the innuendo in his testimony.
yeah.
Sir, you did not get any incentive to testify in this court. No, I did not. And I like how he looked and he had to think about it because he's just like a dumb criminal. He's like, oh, yeah, here I'm supposed to say no. You could see that on his face. It's
Yeah, I basically I didn't recognize that as Terrence Stamp because he was so not Terrence Stamp. Like, 'cause Terrence Stamp, he's like, I'm in control and I know what I'm doing, and he's such an like a weird idiot. Like he's in like some children's movie on like standing trial.
Yeah.
He's even got like a goofy like suit on.
Yeah, and he has this weird smirk on his face.
Hmm.
No, sir, I did not take any. I was not influenced in any way to give this testimony. I just felt it was right. You know, he was talking weird and everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So it's like, oh, this movie's going to take a turn.
And then like when he's finished with his testimony, he gets
I love
taunted
that
by the
scene.
guys, and they start singing like "We'll meet again."
Oh, meet again. Don't know where.
But all the but like they synced it all weird, and it was just clearly like put in post, and so it just feels even more weird and discordant.
Yeah, because when the way they filmed it, like they started singing that song, and then the bailiff and the court people were coming in, and like these guys were all fighting.
Yeah.
But in the movie, they just kept singing. Like, well,
Yes.
these guys obviously aren't singing; they're being punched in the face. But okay, it's Stephen Frears is a real hit and miss director. So,
Yeah.
and this was one of his, well, he started making movies in the '60s, but this is the one I remember, other than like, the one set in like the 1800s. Dangerous Liaisons. That was another Frears movie.
Yeah, we cut to 10 years later, and he's like hiding out in Spain.
Yeah. And he gets kidnapped. Yeah, he's like hiding out in Spain, and he's riding around with this dude on a bicycle, and you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
But he's getting these books, and he's talking to a priest, and a lot of this dialogue is in Spanish, which it's not translated.
No.
So, but he's talking to the priest, and I can tell like the book he has. It's like a book about who was that guy? I think it was like a book by Thomas Aquinas or something. So it's like, oh, this guy's into some kind of philosophical Spanish, hiding out in nowhere world.
Yeah.
And then he gets kidnapped by these four
Hooligans.
Yeah. And this movie's full of weird, kind of absurdly violent but ineffective fight scenes, and this is one of them.
Yeah, awkward. Yes, awkward fight scenes.
Real awkward fight scenes.
And I'm not sure if that's done intentionally or it's like we couldn't afford a fight coordinator, so we just had the actors do it, and they're all weird.
I think, I don't know if it was intentional. This movie wasn't made for a bunch of money, but I think it was. It kind of looks like, oh, that's what fights are really like.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
people aren't like, perfectly trained fighters walking around all the time. And even if you are, the people you're fighting aren't, so they're going to just charge at you and try to knock you down. You're going to throw books at them, but this guy's also was a getaway driver. That was his. He wasn't like a gun guy. He wasn't like a get in people's face and rob the bank. He was just a getaway driver.
Yeah, it wasn't
Which I
the
thought
muscle.
would play into the movie later, but it didn't. Just like a lot of things in this movie didn't.
Yeah, a lot of things you expect. I mean, they give you a map of like, this is where the movie's going to go, and it doesn't go there.
No. Where's this going to pay off? It's not, which is one of the reasons I really didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was expecting payoff. I like,
But that's also the reason why a Criterion would pick it up. It's like, oh, this is jazz. This is the notes they're not playing. It's like, oh, the
Right.
ones that suck.
Yeah. This is everything you don't want about a road.
Yeah, sometimes a brave movie is unfulfilling, and it's also just unfulfilling.
Yeah. Sometimes a turtle's just a turtle. So yeah, they so he gets kidnapped and by these guys in Spain, and they drive out to the country and have some kind of weird car chase, or not car chase, but they meet up.
They
with
run
the
over
guy.
his guard.
Yeah, they run
That-
over the cop that was guarding him. Yeah,
Who he just immediately knows they're stealing his guy, and he shoots at the car, which makes no sense, but whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
we all know what's going on. It's like, let's hurry the movie up.
there's a car out in the middle of nowhere driving. Quick, shoot at it.
And the guy you're supposed to protect is inside it. Immediately shoot at it.
Yeah. Bullets don't go through cars.
These
So,
bullets
yeah,
are
then-
blessed, and they only attack evil people.
Yeah. They turn into angel kisses when they hit the good people. And by the way, the good guy here is just an ex-robber and an ex-armed robber getaway guy. So anyway, so this is when we meet the rest of the cast, or at least two of the four people. As we meet Braddock, played by John Hurt, who this is the same year he did 1984. So yeah, he pretty much looks like Winston Smith, just in a weird suit.
Yeah, put glasses on him and slick back hair.
Sunglasses on, and yeah, he looks miserable the whole time, which
Yeah.
he's supposed to.
So it looks like John Hurt.
yeah. John Hurt always looks.
John,
like
he always looks like he has pancreatic cancer.
he's like 30 when this was made. And yeah. Actually, John Hurt got to look better as he got older. Then he became like weird old man angry instead of
Yeah, and then he actually had cancer. So.
yeah, then he actually died of cancer. So yeah, then they
and a young Tim Roth.
yes, and a 12-year-old Tim Roth. Why I actually had to look. I was like, oh yeah, that is Tim Roth. But they so they meet the kidnappers, Braddock and what's Tim Roth's character's name? It's weird. It's like Myron.
Yeah.
So Myron and Braddock meet the kidnappers, and so they put Willie Terrence Stamp in the back of their Peugeot, and then they hand the kidnappers a suitcase supposedly full of money. And then the kidnappers are heading back to the car, and one of them stops to give Willie his other shoe, which came off when they were dragging him over to the car. And then I guess the guys in the car open the suitcase, and it explodes and kills 3 of the 4 kidnappers. Which I think that scene is only done that way to give the detectives, who are always like Keystone Cop 3 steps behind these guys, some kind of connection to how they could identify them.
Yeah.
Which was, I wasn't expecting a bomb. I thought he would just shoot them, but yeah, they do a bomb. Just weird. So then they're on the road.
Yeah, it's this is probably like one of the more interesting parts of the movie, because it's just Terrence Stamp just saying out loud what's happening and just saying the information he's receiving out loud, and then that makes them uncomfortable. It's like, oh, he knows too much. He's like, well, you're just gonna kill me anyways. What do you care what I know?
Yeah. Yeah, let's set a frame here for the Willie character. Terrence Stamp has apparently spent the last 10 years reading books on philosophy and history, and he's kind of, to them, he's like, I've accepted my death. It all ends in death, and death is just a continuation of life. You don't know what it's going to be. We're just going to move on from this, so I'm at peace with my death. He's constantly saying this stuff, and he's also the only one that speaks Spanish, so when he hears stuff on the radio, he's telling them, is like, oh yeah, they're looking for you because that cop got killed that was watching me. And because their plan is to drive from Spain to Paris, and that's where they're going to kill him. So then they have to divert to Madrid because he knows, because Braddock knows there's a safe house there. Just jump in if I'm missing anything.
No, that's pretty much happens.
And then that's where they meet Harry, who is an Australian criminal, part of this criminal group, but he's basically squatting in this group's safe house.
Yeah.
With a girl that he says is anywhere from 16 to 15, and he's like proud of that fact. And that's the 4th character in this, Maggie. Who actually she's not. She looks like she's like in her 30s, but
yeah. So what I assume what that's about is, one, it made it seem like he was bragging, like, hey, look at this, I'm banging a young chick. But I think really what it was about is like he knew that they were going to kill him, and if they thought she was 15, they might not kill her.
oh, okay. I thought it made him a grosser character. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like she's 16.
No. I mean, she looks young. It's,
Yeah, it's like late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah. I mean, younger than everybody else looks. So even to,
younger than John Hurt
yeah.
or Terrence Stamp.
Yeah.
She's still alive.
Yes.
Let me check.
He is in the latest it's the guy that did like Baby Driver and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like last stop in Soho. Like that's his latest movie, and he's in it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm glad he's
Edgar Wright. That's
Yes, yeah, he's in Edgar Wright's new movie.
okay.
I'm not sure how much, but I bothered to look about who's still alive, and yes, Terrence Stamp is still alive.
Tim Roth is 60. But I don't think he was as young as the character he was playing in this movie. So,
Yeah.
so then they decide they're going to get a new car, which is apparently property of this apartment. It's like, oh yeah, it's a white Mercedes with a tricky carburetor. Because they need a new car because the guy who wasn't killed when the bomb went off identified their car. And so they need a new car to go to Paris. And so they go downstairs and get the Mercedes. The guy drives it up, and then Braddock walks back upstairs and puts on one of the Australian football games for the guy to watch while he talks to him. You know he's going to kill him. But he also catches the guy on the phone calling the police. So it's like, yeah, I was probably right in coming back upstairs because I knew you were going to screw us over. So they don't show it, but you know what happens. So.
Well, there's a scene where like it looks like he's gonna push him off the balcony, which is very tense.
Yeah.
Because he just takes him outside. Because John Hurt says as little as possible in this movie.
I think he has less dialogue than the evil guy in No Country for Old Men. Like he just doesn't really say a lot. But he gestures like to the road over the balcony, and he points down. And that guy's like, I deserve better than this, you know? But he doesn't throw him off the roof. I like how when he's watching the football game, because, of course, the Braddock smokes, like, constantly. Like, everyone in this movie smokes all the time. And so you hear a lighter click, but you think, like, oh, is that his gun? Like, that was a good tint, because you couldn't see what was going on. You just saw that it was close in on this guy's face, and you hear the Zippo lighter click, and it's like, wait, is that his gun? Oh, no, he's lighting a cigarette. And they swing the camera back over to him, and he's just sitting there. And you think that he might get off, but then in the end, you know, he doesn't. So now there's 4 of them in the car. And she's some kind of, like, weird hostage.
Yeah.
And, of course, Myron is, like, you know, sexually attracted to her. Braddock is annoyed by the whole thing. And Terrence Stamp is just still being a weirdo.
Yeah. And he's the only one that can understand her.
Yeah, well, like, they're like, yeah, you know, English, and she's like, oh, I'm hungry, or I'm so horny. Like, those are the only English words she apparently knew. So yeah, and again, we're off on another road trip with the 4 of them, and then Terrence Stamp's waxing philosophically about death again. Which you think, like, when this guy's going to die in the end, because you know, like, what's going to happen is like, oh, he's going to be, like, open to it. You know, that
well, actually, like, I don't know, maybe the tension for me for this whole movie, because I mostly know Terrence Stamp for playing like violent, angry characters. Yeah. I was just waiting for the turn. Like, he was just being super patient, and he was waiting for the time where he could turn it on them, and it just never happens. But
yeah.
So that made the movie better for me, like, because I just had that tension in the background. I was like, when's he gonna flip it? And he just doesn't. But that's kind of his character.
Yeah. And so then I'm trying to remember what else memorable happens.
I don't know. They just gotta go places. There's like there's that weird scene where Myron goes to the bar to get beers, and he's just like unpacking weapons from his coat, and then like fights some people and knocks over a bunch of shit.
Yeah, basically destroys the front of a restaurant.
Yeah,
I like his weird weapons. He's got like a some kind of like half a nightstick, or maybe it's a weighted sap.
Yeah,
and then obviously a homemade throwing star.
Yeah,
and then a piece of bike chain. And he like just pulls this stuff
and like
out.
a skewer.
Yeah, and a skewer. Yeah, I forgot about that. Like, he's got a skewer. And yeah, so he's got like these weird homemade weapons. And then he just beats the hell out of these guys in the bar who, you know, were laughing at him and saying nasty shit to him in a language you couldn't understand, but he could understand what they were doing. But it's like, yeah, is this the time to destroy a restaurant when you're on the run? Because it really annoys Braddock. He's like, what? Yeah, that wasn't necessary.
Well, and because, like, you know, like how Braddock is, you kind of just get the idea is like, oh, this seals this guy's fate. He just did that for no reason, called attention upon him, and he's annoying. It's like, well,
Yeah.
he's gonna die.
Yeah, I did wonder in this movie, like, why is he this guy's assistant? It was like you think he would have immediately been like, "Nope, get the fuck out of the car," you know, before they left England. Like, I'm not doing this with you. You're an idiot. But
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew, did you get to watch the movie this week?
Oh, I fell asleep halfway through it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
How good it was.
Yeah.
it kept your interest. Good.
Yep. Well, I mean, I know some of the actors now, like John Hurt. I heard of Terrence Stamp, so it was nice putting a face to that I could kind of remember.
Watch The Limey. That's kind of his best role. It's a Steven Soderbergh. It's an early Steven Soderbergh movie. It's just a great revenge flick
Oh, okay.
with a great performance by him. So
The soul in him too. He carries the whole movie.
I mean, it's not a bad movie. I mean, I guess when I saw it, I didn't think it was a bad movie, but at the same time, I could see why you guys don't like it because it's not. I'm not like a huge fan of it, but like reading.
well, I like some of the ideas.
It's
It's just kind of like on whole, it's a kind of just an empty, bleak movie that you have to bring your own story to. So
yeah, I mean, empty bleak movies aren't really what I need right now. But doesn't mean that somebody can't like it. I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like, I didn't hate the movie. It's just at the same time, like, it's not doing anything to make me like it or really invested in it. Because I thought it was shot in the 70s. Like, I looked at the year. I'm like, oh, 84, huh? We're going with
well, I mean, the movie starts technically in the 70s, so it's made to look like it.
okay. I
but
guess I
then-
didn't think about that part of it. It just looked
but
like the
it's-
70s. So.
Yeah, it starts out that way, and then it's 10 years later. But like, it's in Spain, so it's it's European, so everything there is ancient anyway. So
Yeah. But yeah, okay, we're down to 1 minute.
all right, I'll just hurry up and I'll call you guys back.
All right. Almost.
Yeah, we can keep going and catch up Andrew when he goes.
Okay. Yeah, that was. I mean, there was some interesting stuff about because when they were driving through the countryside of Spain, it was like, why are there all the castles here? And they gave some like, well, this was like all the people invaded here. The Romans invaded here. The Moors invaded here. Like they did talk about the history and that was beautifully like long angle shot above the car and stuff. But it doesn't. This wasn't one that really like paid off for me. It wasn't a movie with, and it built a lot of tension, but it had no climax. It was like, oh, this is kind of what I expected.
There's the weird part where like they go to get gas and he like just casually shoots like the gas attendant in the head because he gives his gun to Myron to like, here, have it, but he has a backup gun that he uses to kill people. Then
Yeah.
did he just run out of bullets or did he decide to not kill Maggie for reasons?
I think the gunshot going on. I mean, at the end.
No, like when like she like punches him in the balls or something, and they're fighting. He has like the gun to her head, but he doesn't shoot. And I thought maybe because like he shoots the gas attendant in the head, and then he just starts shooting up the place to try to make it look more like a robbery or something that gone wrong.
Yeah. Because he opens a cash register and spreads money all around. Yeah. I'm not sure what that, because that guy, again, that character's motives were not, other than being this guy who's kind of at the end of his rope assassin, is, they didn't really elaborate on his story a whole lot. So.
Sorry, I don't know if it's lag or something. Like my computer was not really doing very well with Gmail right now.
Oh, that's okay. We were just talking about the movie.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, and there's a part where Myron is watching. What's his name? Terrence Stamp? Willie?
Oh, Willie, yeah.
Yeah, and then like, and they're just like watching like a waterfall, and there's a point where like, when John Hurt gets back and he's just asleep, and he's like, "Where'd he go?" And then John Hurt's fighting him, just staring at the waterfall, and he's like, "Why didn't you run?" And it's like, "I accept my fate."
Yeah.
And then John Hurt's kind of like taken aback by that for a bit. It's like, oh, maybe this guy is a good guy, but then they take him a spot and they're going to kill him, and then he just kind of starts bitching now. It's like, no, you're not supposed to kill me here. We got to go to Paris. And he just kind of runs off with a blanket on him, and they shoot him to death.
Yeah, he shoots him in the back, and that's it for that character. It's like, where's all his philosophy?
And then, then he shoots Tim Roth, who like doesn't know what's happening. It's like, wait, why are you gonna shoot me? He starts casually walking off. He's like, I don't want to watch you kill her. And then he realizes that he was never pointing the gun at her the whole time. He's pointing at him.
Yeah,
and shoots him through his those aviator glasses or whatever.
Yeah, shot through his. Those are Ray-Bans. They
Oh, really?
Okay. The case, yeah.
Then he. Oh yeah, and this is the second time he goes to shoot her, and she like punches him again in the balls. I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm conflating the two fights.
The two fights are very similar.
Yeah. Well, one's like directly overhead, which was kind of interesting. That was the one at the gas station. But yeah, and they're like rolling around, but then he just hits her with the butt of the gun, and then like he just leaves her. And I don't know if he ran out of bullets or he just left her for reasons.
Yeah, it states in the summary that he knocks her out.
Yeah.
And just leaves her because there's no reason for her to die.
Well, I mean, just like to keep his identity, but also like she doesn't understand English, so she wouldn't know who he was because he has like 5 names or whatever. He drives off. He burns all his clothes and stuff, and then he just like has a spare like hiking clothes and a backpack, and he starts hiking off. And it's like, well, I guess the job is complete. Like that seems like that was handled pretty well, but then he just ends up walking into like where all the police are stationed and they're questioning her, and he just walks into the place and then he gets chased down by the cops and shot with some submachine guns. It's like,
yeah, he doesn't have a weapon. They just see him in the shopping center or whatever, shopping store. And the main detective, who we never really learn anything about, but he's always the guy that's like 3 steps behind him.
Yeah,
he says something to the police, or the soldiers, like, don't shoot. And there's like 3 guys just open up with submachine guns and riddle him full of holes.
And then like as he's dying, he's talking to Maggie, but she can't understand him. He winks and then he closes his eyes and dies.
Yeah.
Like, what was that about?
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of like quoting different poets and stuff about the inevitability of death and accepting that. Like the whole movie had that theme, that death theme to it, but you were expecting more of, instead of that just being instructive, it's like, oh, what does that say about these characters? It's like, oh, well, they're going to inevitably die. All right, well, I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
I didn't need to hear John Dunn to know that was going to happen, but okay.
And bring it back a little bit, there's that weird biting scene between John Hurt and Matt.
Oh, yeah, the sadomasochistic biting scene.
Yeah.
It's like, because he likes it and she sort of likes it, and then her mouth's filled with blood during the scene. It's like, well, this is weird.
And he basically just doesn't react to it, and takes his hand away and just wraps it up a bit and doesn't mention it to the other guys or anything like that.
By the way, those wounds become horribly infected very quickly unless you do something with them. But I guess it's not a medical procedural show. So.
Yeah. That was the hit. A weird movie I never knew of.
1984. Yeah, I mean, if you like, British crime movies and
It's a great cast, so
a lot of esoteric dialogue about the nature of man, and it's cool, I guess, but didn't really pay off for me. I'm not going to say it's like, wow, I'm glad I saw this. It's like I was at the end. I was like, well, this is why no one's heard of this. Music was cool. The Eric Clapton music was interesting.
Yeah, this is also like this is the off the neo-noir list, so like this is just another take on neo-noir, so it's like interesting in that respect. It's like because they've all been very different. So.
Yeah, this wasn't horrible. It was just
no, I can see like why you could say this is an important movie, but like I said, it's like movie jazz. It's the notes they're not playing. It's like, oh, you mean entertaining?
This is important, damn it. I hear what you're saying. Well, that's all I got for this week, unless anyone has anything else.
I mean, not really, unfortunately.
All right. Well, on that note, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.